Indiana quarterback Josh Hoover is already getting love for the Heisman Trophy next season, and he has a chance to be the best quarterback in the nation.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. It is the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen or your first watch every single day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day and the nation's #1 sports podcasting network. Today's episode is brought to you by Mazda. We put that same drive into every detail. Wins that define the moment, putting in the work that defines you. Stay tuned for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. There's more to a Mazda, because there's more to you. Well, in the back half of today's show, we're talking a lot of Indiana basketball. Hoosiers get a huge win over UCLA on Saturday. How can they build on that for the game against USC coming up tomorrow? Plus, is Indiana a tournament team? I think they are, and I'll tell you why. But we got to start today's show with the idea that Josh Hoover, Indiana transfer, or I guess TCU transfer into Indiana, who will be the starting quarterback for 2026. That was never a secret, okay? That was never in jeopardy. We saw Alberto Mendoza transfer out. Best of luck to him down in Atlanta. But Josh Hoover was always going to be QB1 when Indiana got him out of the transfer portal. And I understand that today's date, if you're watching this or listening on the day it comes out, February 2nd. That means there's a lot of time between now and when the 2026 season kicks off for Indiana football. But the idea that Josh Hoover is already receiving love in the Heisman Trophy race should get you excited. Our friends at FanDuel have him as the third best favorite to win the Heisman Trophy right now. Has the third best odds to win the Heisman Trophy at the beginning of February. I'm excited to see how that changes between now and the start of the season. Of course, that all depends on people putting their hard-earned dollars on it. But Arch Manning, CJ Carr, then Josh Hoover. You also have Jeremiah Smith and Julian Sayin in there as well. This should get you excited because Josh Hoover has every chance with the skill set he has, the experience he has, and the system that he's going to be playing in at Indiana. He has every chance to be the best quarterback in college football, just like Fernando Mendoza was. And we talked about throughout the whole transfer portal process, right, that Indiana is a destination place now. Not just for every player, but quarterback in particular. It is a place that big-time players want to go. And Fernando Mendoza just proved that, right? He has now laid the foundation of it can work here. You can be successful as a quarterback in Bloomington, Indiana. And I think Josh Hoover has every chance to be that this upcoming season. 6'2", 200 pounds, a guy that threw for 3,500 yards last year, 3,472. He threw for nearly 3,500 yards last season at TCU. He was a top 10 quarterback in passing touchdowns with 29. His QBR was nearly 74. This dude can sling the football. And he works so well with what Indiana's going to be running because of his arm strength, his decision-making, and the fact that he can operate the RPO just about better than anybody in college football. That's what TCU ran. They ran RPO. They gave him the option to either check it at the line or check it mid-play and do what he felt was best for that particular play, given what the defense was showing and given what the defense presented. Sounds like Fernando Mendoza, doesn't it? Sounds like what Indiana runs with Shanahan as your offensive coordinator and putting the ball in the hands of your quarterback and letting him make a call. That's what Josh Hoover did at TCU. That's what he's going to do at Indiana. Now, I don't think he is the runner that people are going to want him to be, a guy that last year ran for a little bit. Okay, nothing crazy, nothing that we really even need to highlight here, but he is more so a passing quarterback. Ran for 471 yards in 2024, ran for 400 and no, completely wrong. That's wrong. Don't Don't listen to that. That is completely the incorrect stat. Let's try this again. He ran for last year 4 yards, 55 carries and 4 yards for Josh Hoover. So nothing crazy there. Did have a couple of touchdowns. Reminder in college football, though, sack yardages go against the quarterback's rushing total. So don't need to stress about that. But Josh Hoover is somebody who can throw it downfield, can hit receivers in stride, it could hit the home run ball, but he's more of your 10 to 15 yard, get it in my hands, get it out of my hands, and let me find somebody that's open. That's what Josh Hoover does. So it makes sense that he's getting Heisman love already. It makes sense that he has every chance to be the nation's best quarterback in 2026. And you think about the guys he's going to be throwing the football to, Shazz Preston from Tulane, Charlie Becker returning, and Nick Marsh from Michigan State. Not only does Josh Hoover have the chance to be the best quarterback in the nation, Nick Marsh has a chance to be one of the nation's best wide receivers. I think he already was. I think Nick Marsh was already one of the nation's best wide receivers. He was just buried on the Michigan State roster and buried on that offense and buried in a miserable place for football right now. He will step in and immediately become a top 5 receiver in the Big Ten, if not a top 5 receiver in college football. So I say all of that to say this. Indiana's offense isn't going anywhere. The team that could put up 60 points anytime they want to, yeah, that's not going anywhere. The team that when you need a drive and you need a score, they deliver, that's not going anywhere. And the team that will just put pedal to the metal, foot on your throat, and make you want to quit the game of football altogether, that team's not going anywhere. You pair that with a defense that's solid, a coaching staff that is stuck together, and a Heisman contender at quarterback like Josh Hoover, Indiana's offense will be legit next year. I think the running back room is solid. Your offensive line is beefed up, and you've got dudes to throw the football to. And one of the best quarterbacks in all of college football, Josh Hoover, will be your gunslinger in 2026. And I think he will be in contention for the Heisman. He'll be in contention for the nation's best quarterback and have Indiana right back where they started, right back where they picked up, or right where they left off as they won the national championship. So we're going to talk so much more as the season gets closer, right? Especially in the summer and the offseason, about why Josh Hoover picked Indiana, what he's going to do here, and how he can elevate Indiana's offense one step further. But man, this is a perfect fit for Josh Hoover and the Indiana offense. I think he's got every chance to be the best quarterback in 2026. All right, coming up here on Locked On Hoosiers, we're going to flip to the hardwood. We're going to talk some Indiana basketball because that win on Saturday against UCLA was incredible. Yes, you stacked a win. Yes, you're now on a win streak, but it meant even more than that. We talk about that right after this on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by FanDuel. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff, the final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel is making sure you are right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. Whether you're backing the favorite, riding with the underdog, or building one last same-game parlay, this is the game that everyone has been waiting for. This is where predictions turn into plays, stats turn into storylines, and every snap feels bigger. It's the perfect way to cap off the season and make sure the Super Bowl is even more exciting from kickoff to the final whistle. If you're a new customer right now, you can bet just $5 and you're going to get $200 in bonus bets if you win. So make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season's over, unfortunately. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. So visit FanDuel.com right now to get started. All right, welcome back into Locked On Hoosiers. Appreciate you being here, making this your go-to spot for all things Indiana athletics. And before we talk some basketball, I want to remind you that we have our Locked On Hoosiers Everydayer Club going on right now. If you're on YouTube, you can see the link here. We'll have it in the description for you. For audio listeners, you will be able to click on the link in the description as well. This is just for you to get some more access to what we've got going on here at the network, okay? It's $5 a month. You get access to this show every single day, ad-free in the audio version. Okay, so I think, $5 a month, that's probably worth it in itself. Plus, you get access to our Discord server, which is a big group chat that we're all a part of, right? We've got me in there. We've got tons of you fans in there. We're talking during games, after games, before games, some buzz and portal and recruiting and things like that. So you get access to that. Plus, we've got some cool merch stuff that you can get a part of or be a part of and get access to as well. So that is at lockedonpodcast.com/everydayer. Again, lockedonpodcast.com/everydayer. And you can become a part of the Locked On Hoosiers Everydayer Club. And let's talk some basketball, right? Let's talk a little basketball because is Indiana the hottest team in the Big Ten? Are they the hottest team in college basketball? Maybe not, but they are playing good. And that win against UCLA on Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening, we might look back on this as a monumental changing moment of this season. 98-97, Hoosiers take down the Bruins, double overtime on the road. And that's where I want to start today because this is a big deal for Indiana. Do you realize that our road wins this season were abysmal? Our road wins this year were Maryland and Rutgers coming into this. Our wins away from Assembly Hall included Marquette, who sucks. Okay, you lost on the road at Minnesota. You lost a neutral site to Louisville. You lost the road game to Kentucky. You lost at Michigan State. You lost at Michigan. This team has not been able to perform away from Assembly Hall against quality opponents. I don't give much credit for beating Maryland and beating Rutgers, two of the worst teams in our league. Even though it's on the road, it says a little something, but not a whole lot. This win against UCLA on Saturday means a whole lot because UCLA is a tournament team. They're a borderline tournament team. They have every opportunity to get to the big dance, and so does Indiana. We'll talk about that in our final segment. But you won this game. You had every chance to close it out in regulation. I know. We were up by 10 and had a chance to close it out, run away with it. Looked like UCLA was going to lay down and die. Give them credit. They didn't. Indiana, I don't know, threw it away, basically, at the end, and you had to play 10 extra minutes. But you got it done. You got it done through an ugly first overtime and a back and forth second overtime, and you found a way to win. I said this in our live show on Saturday. If you missed it, go check it out on the Locked On Hoosiers YouTube channel. I said that this win over UCLA would mean more to this team in particular. The win over UCLA would mean more than the win over Purdue. Maybe not to us, the fans. Maybe not on the national landscape, right? Beating a top 15 Purdue team is a pretty big deal. Biggest win of the Darren DeVries era for sure. But in terms of what this team needs and how this team operates and the mental of this team, this win on Saturday against UCLA means so much more than the home win against Purdue because you proved to yourself you can do it. You proved to yourself you can play beyond 40 minutes. You can beat a quality team and do it in a different way. Did Indiana have their greatest shooting day from behind the arc on Saturday? No. You shot 32%, which is decent. But in our big wins this year, Indiana has shot a lot better than that. Right? Only 32% from behind the arc, only 42% from the floor, but you shot 38 free throws in this game, and you made 31 of them at 82%. I'll take that. You competed in the rebounding category. You passed the ball extremely well, 22 assists on 28 made buckets. You only turned it over 11 times on the road in 50 minutes of play. We'll take that every day. And you forced some turnovers as well. And you had guys step up. You had guys like Nick Dorn and Wilkerson who gives you what he gives you. And Reed Bailey with the best game of his year so far. This is what Indiana needed. And now you have a chance. Okay? You have a chance to build on this and stack wins. You're already on a winning streak. Folks, you're already playing your best basketball of the season. You're 6-5 in the Big Ten. You're 15-7 overall, and you've won 3 games in a row. Just like that. You look up, and you've won 3 games in a row. And you are now in the top half of the Big Ten. You're in the top half of the Big Ten. You're about to play a team that's below you in the standings in USC, who's 5-6, right? That game coming up late tomorrow night out in Los Angeles. We'll have more of a preview for that on tomorrow's show. But you're playing a team that's below you in the standings and a chance to go to 7-5. You then play Wisconsin, who is above you in the standings. They're 8-3. That's a good Wisconsin team, but it's back home at the Hall. You're coming back to Bloomington for that game. You're then going to play Oregon, who, in terms of conference standings, is the second worst team in the league. Just decimated with injuries, though. I hate that for that Oregon team. And then back-to-back top 15 games on the road against Illinois and Purdue. We'll worry about those when we get there. But you have a chance to stack this up tomorrow with a win over USC, who's good, not great. They got a couple good players. Chad Baker-Mazara is their go-to guy. He's the one that makes them run emotionally and on the scoreboard. But, man, it was so fun to watch this Indiana team kind of grow up in front of us on Saturday. And I think they did. I think they learned a ton about themselves. I think they learned they don't need 30 from Lamar Wilkerson. They don't need 30 from Tucker DeVries, right? You can get it from other places. Nick Dorn on this team has brought a spark, has brought new life to the Indiana basketball Hoosiers. And I don't want to go out and say, so please don't take this the wrong way, because I don't mean it this way. I'm not trying to say that Indiana is a better basketball team without Tayton Conorway, right? Who didn't play again on Saturday. He's been bogged down with that injury, lower leg, foot, ankle type of thing. I don't want to say that Indiana's a better basketball team without him, right? Just don't even show up, Tayton. We're good. We're good, Conorway. We're better without you, brother. Just stay home. I'm not saying that. But what I am going to say is that Indiana's a different team without him right now. And it's hard not to notice the difference in the flow of this Indiana team on both ends of the floor and just their vibe and just their mantra with Nick Dorn in the lineup. A guy that's clearly a bigger offensive threat, at least from behind the arc. He plays just as good defense, if not better. And I think he has a little bit more get up and go. I think he's got a little bit more hustle behind him as well. Indiana's winning games with Nick Dorn in the starting lineup. He's not afraid to shoot. He knocks them down. I think, what's the number now? Like 85 or something % of his shots come from behind the arc. It's insane to see. But I do believe that Indiana needs Tayton Conorway in some way, shape, or form. If he is able to come back and get healthy and be a part of this team, if I'm Darren DeVries, I don't change up my lineup. I don't put Tayton Conorway just automatically back in the starting five. I think you bring him off the bench. I think you play him for 18 to 22 minutes rather than the 25 to 30 that he was getting before, if not more, right? Because what you're doing is working. And if you can continue to get good play out of Reed Bailey, you get Sam Alexis back in his groove. Tucker DeVries can wake up again. He's so hit or miss right now. You start to have some serious threats on this team that you can go to on the offensive end of the floor. And I know that Indiana ended up giving up 97 points in this game, but you played 2 overtime periods. You were going to have to give up points. It was just obvious. But I think they played good enough defensively to win on Saturday, and they did. You then bring Tayton Conorway off the bench, and maybe that gives him a spark, right? Maybe that ignites something different for him. Basketball's a weird game, man. Basketball is a weird game where you take somebody out of the starting role where they don't start the game on the floor. They come off the bench, right? They're typically surrounded by some of the other reserves. So the 5 on the floor is not as good as the starting 5. Sometimes it creates a spark for somebody and they feel like they have to make the plays. They have to be better. And maybe that happens for Tayton Conorway. I don't know. But what I do know is Indiana's on a 3-game win streak. And I know that they are pushing to make the NCAA tournament. They picked up a big resume-building win against UCLA. It goes down as a quad 1 win. Indiana now with 2 quad 1 wins in back-to-back games and a chance to get another big one against USC tomorrow. We'll talk about that on tomorrow's show. But I mentioned we're making a push for the tournament. And Joe Lunardi at ESPN agrees. We talk about how Indiana can make the big dance right after this. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Mazda's moving the game forward. For those who show, there's more to the score than what's on the screen. And it's impossible not to talk about our guy, Nick Dorn. right? It's impossible not to talk about him, but I'm going to split this up. I want our moving the game forward today to be two different guys for Indiana basketball. Nick Dorn deserves it. 26 points, 6 of 15 from deep, also grabbed 7 rebounds as well. But Reed Bailey needs to be shouted out for playing his best game of the season, 24 points, 12 of 13 at the free throw line, 6 boards, 5 assists, and only 1 turnover. Both of those guys moved the game forward, helped Indiana take down UCLA in double overtime. These remind us of what it really takes to raise the bar. It's the extra work off the court, dialing in every detail, giving it that extra fire, the grit, and the I never quit. We put that same passion into every model at Mazda. Highlights make the reel. What it took to get there makes it count. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you. All right, final segment here on today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers. Having some fun talking Indiana basketball. And I mentioned that Indiana's making a push for the NCAA tournament. And what's so funny about that and fascinating is the roller coaster that we've been on this season of the expectations for the Hoosiers, right? When Darren DeVries was hired and you bring in all these new players, every single player is new, right? I said at the start of the season, the expectation was to make the NCAA tournament. I didn't really care how you did it. I don't really care why you did it. I don't care who you beat to do it. It was just get to the tournament, right? Be competitive in the Big Ten, take care of some of your non-conference games, maybe get a win in there or two, and just make the NCAA tournament. Doesn't even have to be pretty. We just want to be there, right? Especially after getting screwed at the end of last year. And to start the season, right, you blow the doors off of Marquette. You're feeling good there. You stack wins. You started, 7-0, I think, on the year. And we were feeling pretty good. We knew we hadn't been overly tested, but we were feeling good about what we were seeing on the floor. And we were like, okay, I think the NCAA tournament is a thing. I think Indiana can get to the dance. Well, then you go on the road to lose to Minnesota, which was completely unacceptable in my opinion. Then you blow the game against Louisville. All right, now we're not feeling so good. You bounce back with a win over Penn State. Okay, whatever. You go on the road and you blow your lead to Kentucky, who is just, I don't know what to make of that team. They just beat Arkansas this weekend on the road against John Calipari in Fayetteville, but you had every chance to win that game in Rupp and couldn't pull it out. So at that point, right, you wrap up non-conference play and we're like, I don't know. I just don't know if this is a tournament team or not. We thought they could be, but it's not looking good. Then you rattle off a couple wins in the Big Ten. You beat Washington, you beat Maryland. All right, maybe. Then you go on that 4-game losing streak of Nebraska, Michigan State, Iowa, and Michigan. And you lost all 3 games in different ways. Nebraska, you blew it. Michigan State, you just can't compete. Iowa was embarrassing. And Michigan, you were never going to win that game. And so at that point, we were at the lowest point of the season of like, all right, this team, they just don't have it, man. They just don't have it. They're not playing together. They don't have the talent. They can't stay consistent on the offensive end. Defense is all over the place. They don't have it. Ain't no way they're making the tournament. And here we are now. They rip off 3 wins in a row. They get right on the road at Rutgers. They upset Purdue, and they take down UCLA on the road. And so all of a sudden, here we are. Now we're back up, right? We're back up at the peak. We're back up at the top. We're saying this is a tournament team because I believe that to be the case with the way they're playing right now. Could that change come Tuesday night? You better believe it. You better believe it could change. But the way that Indiana's playing right now, the team we saw on Saturday at UCLA is an NCAA tournament team. And guess what? Joe Lunardi at ESPN agrees. Going into the weekend, his last update when I'm recording this was Friday, January 30th. That is when he updated his bracketology. So going into the weekend, before Indiana had played UCLA, Joe Lunardi had Indiana as the last team in. They were the last team into the NCAA tournament. So you're telling me a win over a quad 1 team like UCLA on the road doesn't put you right back into the NCAA tournament? Doesn't maybe bump you off that line just once or twice and get you firmly in the tournament? I think it does. I think it absolutely does. But guess what? Being in the tournament, being in bracketology at the beginning of February doesn't do you a whole lot of good. You want to be there mid-March on Selection Sunday when your logo and your name pops up on the screen. That's what Indiana's fighting for. But that goes to show that the national landscape, the national media, the people involved in this process, they see the potential for the Hoosiers. And so do I. You keep playing the way you're playing and start stacking some wins, including tomorrow night against USC, you're working your way into the NCAA tournament. And so what you have to do now is take care of the games that you're supposed to win, right? I'm looking at Oregon, Northwestern, Minnesota. Okay, I'm looking at those 3 games. You're going to have to pick up a win or two that maybe you're not supposed to get tomorrow night against USC, home against Wisconsin, at Ohio State, and then maybe pick up another win to truly build your resume at Illinois, at Purdue, or home for Michigan State. That's as simple as it gets. Take care of the games you're supposed to, pick up a win or two you're maybe not supposed to, and pull off an upset. That's it. That's what Indiana has to do, and I think you make the NCAA tournament. And I think this team has the talent and the firepower and maybe the coaching to do so. But now that you're riding the wave and you're on the way up, you cannot come crashing back down to earth. You cannot go on a losing streak. You cannot give it all back, right? It's like you just want a big hand in poker. All your chips are stacked up. You can't give it all back on the very next hand. You can't do it. That's where Indiana is right now. You're stacking chips, you're stacking wins, and you're working your way to the NCAA tournament. You just can't give it all back over the next several weeks. All right, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers, man. Thank you so much for being here. We're having a ton of fun. We're excited for what February has to bring. January was a historic month. So thank you so much for everything that you do to support this show, watching, listening, subscribing, following, sending it to your family and friends and your coworkers, man. Do that. It helps us so much. And we're coming off a historic month of January, and 2026 is off to a fantastic start. So thank you so much for that, and I really do appreciate you. We are back tomorrow, Hoosier fans, for another episode. So until then, stay safe, and I'll talk to you later.